that first section is going to consistently come back to us as we go through the next 7 or 8 units. All right, we're going to continue to graph every unit, and every unit comes back to the same thing: A, B, H, and K. So the second chapter is on radical functions. Well, remember radicals are, they're just the square roots, right? So our base square root graph is all we're going to do for today. All you do is move the base square root graph, and that's it. So you've got, which we've done a little bit of, you've already done some of it. And then the second part of today is actually taking the square root of an existing graph. So it's not very complicated. So the square root, your key points are obviously 0, 0, 1, 1, 4, and 2, 9, 3. Right, so there's the f of x. There's x, right? Okay, so that's it. So your domain for this graph is what?
X is greater than.
Just wait.
X is greater than. To 0.
To 0.
But then how do you say that
That's
it's
y. What's the range?
y is to?
Same
Greater
thing.
than to 0.
Yeah,
Same
same
thing.
thing.
I hate that.
Same
So
thing.
simple, and yet I'm trying to make it so complicated.
Yeah, it's not. Okay, what did I say? When you're looking at domain,
Yeah.
how far left does it touch?
How far
0. How far right does it go? To infinity. So 0 to infinity, including 0. Right? Same thing. Okay, so take a look at page 40 then. Here's this. This is your graph. This is your new equation.
Plus 1.
All right. What's A?
Minus 2.
Times 2. B?
4.
4. H?
3.
K?
1.
1. Okay. So looking at your parameters then, we already got A and negative 2. So what does negative 2 do to your graph? All the y values, right? So what are you doing? Multiply the y values by what? Sure. There's an easy way to do it, right? So let's do that. 0, 0, still 0, 0, right? That becomes 1, negative 2. So draw it out like this, okay? So then my next coordinate here will be 1, negative 2. 4, negative 4. 9, negative 6, right? That's simple enough. Okay? So in layman's terms though, what I should say is I reflect it over the x-axis, and then I times all my y value by 2, right? Like that's what the layman's terms are, right? Okay, so let's, what do we do with the 4 then? Sure.
By 1.
Divide the x values by 4, correct? And multiply by a quarter, whatever you like, great. Okay, so that's going to be here,
Quarter.
right there, right? And then 2 point something there, so somewhere in here. So it's going to be, okay, so I'll just make sense of that. Okay, so this guy becomes 1/4 and negative 2, right? Okay, this guy becomes 1, negative 4. This guy becomes 9 over 4 and negative 6. Right? Again, it's exactly what you did in the last unit. Right? Where am I going now? No. Right 3, up 1. So move them. 0, 0 goes to 3 and 1. So approximately right here, right? And I'm gonna take this guy right here, which is 1, -4, so I'm gonna move it to 4 and -3. That's not right. No,
No, you're moving it
Yes.
right 3 up 1, so.
right 3, so that becomes 4,
4 and
-3.
3, 4 -3.
4, -3, so 4, -3, so it's somewhere like here, right? And then this is gonna be somewhere over here, like this, so that'll more or less be your final solution. Okay, all right, now, at that point, I go to my graphing calculator, I graph it, check the answer. Okay? Fair enough? Nothing's new. So we just continue to do what we just did. Nothing is new. Right? Okay, so look at example 2. And on example 2, give me A, B, H, okay?
Is 4, B is -2.
Okay.
H is -3, Chase -5.
All right. So what am I doing?
Multiply all your y values by 4.
Multiply y values by 4.
Dividing all your x values by 2.
Divide my x values by -2.
On 3, yeah, down
Left 3 down 5 done. It's not that complicated, is it?
No.
No. Okay, done with that so far, right?
Next question.
The complicated part comes now,
Oh,
all right? This is the only part that will be complicated because you now have to create your own equation, right? From it, and so that's sometimes hard. But it's not as complicated as it seems because we start right here. So I've got y is equal to a square root b x minus h plus k, right?
Yep.
Just like that, correct? Okay, so what I'm going to start with is h and k. That's the easy guy. All right? Because 0 and 0 is one of my coordinates, so find the starting coordinate on there because that's where I moved it left and right. So what's this? 4 and 2? So there's the easy part right there, right?
Okay.
Okay, so far? All right, now, here's where it gets a little more complicated. All right, I've got, I'm going to take coordinate 1 and 1, because that's another coordinate. And so 1 and 1, if I moved 1 and 1 just using h and k and not worried about a and b, I'm going to move it 4 to the right and 2 down, or 2 up, sorry. So that's going to go, that should be 5 and 3, right?
Yes.
What is it actually on that graph though?
5 and 5, yeah.
5 and 5, right? Okay,
Why?
so that guy has changed, correct? Instead of being 5 and 3, it's 5 and 5. So let's guess at what we've done here. Okay. So I moved it that way, and then it should have been. It actually was what, 5 and 5, right? Okay. So if I started with 1 and 1, right, and I'm just focused on this guy right here. That means I have an a value that's affected it. What have I done to that a value, do you think? Or what have I done to the y? Okay, so this is the hard part. Now you got to think about this now. I got to do something to it by multiplying by it and then moving it. Okay? So I'm gonna guess right here. I don't think it's probably a pretty good guess. I'm gonna multiply this guy by 2. If I times this guy by 2, my y value, that becomes 1 and 2, correct? Now move them 4 right and 2 up. So 4 right is 5, which is what I wanted, and 2 up though is only 4, so I can't. That doesn't work, right? So then what did I multiply? What is my a value then? Let's try 3 now. Move it 2 up. Where does it get you to? Gets you to 5, right? So then that means that my A value is 3. That's non-existent.
Yeah.
Here's the hard part.
That's not
So what does the equation look like?
3 bracket square root. Extra. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's what you're supposed to do.
I was reading your mind before.
I know you were.
Okay?
You're thinking of words.
So there it is. So that's the difficult part in this first section. So we understand that?
Not too bad.
Okay. So it's just going to be working at it, and then try it. Like put it into your calculator.
Okay, can I explain to you what I was trying to do?
No.
Because zip it. Okay, you went from the 1 to the 3.
Yeah.
Okay, I was looking at the 5 and the 3 and trying to divide it, which would be
Yeah, I
1
don't.
and
Yeah.
2/3, which is what I got, which
Well-
is what I would have tried to do, which makes no sense at all.
No. Okay. But here's the reason why it doesn't work, Gabby. It's because it's the order in which you have to make that transformation. The stretch has to happen first.
Okay,
So I'm only
So-
checking to see how close I can get to this, right?
okay,
Based on my graph, and then I have to backtrack to that original. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna check the next point. Let's check the next coordinate to make sure it works for it. Well, the next coordinate is 4 and 2 on the original, right?
Yeah.
So now let's times it by 3. Times the y value by 3, what do I get?
6.
So that's 4 and 6, and now I gotta move it. Where? 4, right?
8, 2, and
2 up.
which is the coordinate.
Is it 8 and 8?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even need my graphing calculator. If I can show it for 2, it works. Right? 2 coordinates, it works automatically.
So on the exam, are we gonna have our
No.
calculators for this part?
Probably
This part
not.
is no calculators.
No, but it won't be very complicated. Very rarely will they give you
So
A's and B's on
when
there.
we get our exam, it's gonna say like, you
Okay,
need this part for the
Abby?
calculator.
part A
Yeah.
is 11 to 15 questions. You get 45 minutes to do it, and the calculator is yours. When 45 minutes is up, you set your calculator on the floor, and then you can start part B. There's 2 booklets for it. There's a booklet 1 and a booklet 2. Booklet 1 is all calculator. You can keep booklet 1, and you can work on it without the calculator. They also show a little calculator on the questions that you absolutely need the calculator for.
Okay. Okay.
There's only about 4 of them that you'll need the calculator for. And they'll show the calculator at the top of the question saying this is a calculator question. So what we'll learn to do is we'll go to the 4 that we need the calculator for.
Yeah.
We'll do those
That's
4
why
right
I was
away.
asking if we-
And then you can use it for the rest of that for that first booklet, but after 45 minutes, calculator hits the floor. Softly.
You don't want to just
So whip it, so we're so mad.
So then when we're doing questions like that one that you just did, you likely won't have the calculator, so what we have to do is just prove it like that with the 2 points?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So there's the first part. Now the second part is this guy right here. So I need you to look at page 47. Again, I want to get through this. I want to get through this unit quickly because again, I am drawing on exactly what we just did in the first unit. I'm not changing it, and we know the square root. We know what the original square root looks like. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a graph and we're going to take the square root of that graph. Okay? So what that means is this. My original graph will be y equals f of x. So I'll give you a graph. And then the next graph has to be the square root of that first graph. Okay? But not as complicated as it seems because when I look at it, what am I taking the square root of? What part of this? What is this again?
So what?
The y's. So I'm just taking the square root of the y values. All right? And what happens to any of the y values that are below 0?
This big one.
They don't exist. So I'm only worried about anything above 0.
I was gonna ask
So
that.
it's not that bad. So the first graph that they give you for y equals f of x is y equals 2x add 1. There's the original graph. Okay, so I'm gonna show this nice and big, because you're gonna have to know this. All right, there is only one thing that is a part of this that you must know and do, so it's gonna be straightforward. Okay, 0 and 1, that's right here. Okay, I'm gonna go up 2 and write 1 of that point to right here. Okay, and I'm gonna draw it like this. Okay, so there's my original graph right there. Okay? So now what I want to do is I want to take the square root of this graph. Okay? So I'm looking at the graph right now. What is the y value right here? 0. What's the square root of 0? 0. So my new graph has that coordinate right there. Right? What about
So-
negative 1 here? Can't do it, right? So I don't even have to worry about anything down here now on my original graph, right? Okay. My next point, my next coordinate for y is 1. What is the square root of 1?
1.
It's still 1, right? Okay. What is the square root of, that's 1, 2, 3, that's 3 up there, so the next one would be
1 and
4,
3.
right? It would be over here. Okay, just a second, I want to find out when this is 4. So that
The
would be,
next point
Yes,
is
it is.
1 and 3.
Yeah, 1.
yeah, 1 and 3 is the next coordinate, so you'd have the square root of 3, which is 1 point something. Okay, so it would be like right here. And then it would be right here, and then you're gonna go like this. So that's what the graph's gonna look like, okay? Everybody's okay so far? There is a catch to this graph. All right, let's see. Here's the catch. What is the square root of a quarter?
Square root of a quarter.
A quarter. It's the square root of 1/4.
Should I know
Gosh, yes. What is the square root of 1?
Here's my volleyball number. Oh, not one.
Square root of 1 is what?
1?
So what's the square root of 4?
2.
So then what would be the square root of a quarter? It's 1/2.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
found
you should
that,
know.
and I was like, does that seem right?
Okay, so now, is a half larger or smaller than a quarter?
Larger.
It's larger than a quarter, right? So if I take the square root of a 9th, it becomes a third, which is larger, a third or a 9th?
Third.
A third is, so when you take the square root of it, it's always going to be bigger. So between 0 and 1, when you take the square root of any fraction, it ends up being a larger number. So here's the catch. And this is all that you have to do, okay? Is when I'm taking the square root of the rest of this line right here, you have to show that it's above that line right there, just like that, and do that. So all that you need to do, and this is absolutely necessary for full marks, you have to show that when you take the square root of any of these fractions right here, that the value ends up being
Oh,
larger.
okay, got it. Yeah. So
That's
you
it.
just have to draw an
That's
extra
all.
You
little
just
curve.
draw the curve above that original line, yeah.
When I find the answer for this, do I have to finish it?
Yes. It's worth 10 marks.
It's worth 10 marks.
It says, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sudoku.
One says
Okay, so does everybody understand that? That's the only catch you have on it. Okay? Is that when you're going between 0 and 1, is that when you take the square root of the value, it's always going to be larger. So you have to show that little arc through there. And then everything else is just normal.
Okay.
Makes sense to everybody so far?
Makes sense, it has to look
So
like a
is-
square root.
Is the other part a line or is that still kind of a curve?
It's just a square root graph.
No, it's
It's
kind
still
of it curves because it gradually goes up. It's not a straight line because a straight line would mean then that the square root of each of the numbers is always the same.
Well,
So you show a gentle rise here. Okay?
Like the square.
And again, you are only sketching. You're only sketching. Right? So right now you don't have to be specific on your points. You pick 2, maybe 3 or 4 points. Make sure it goes through those 3 or 4 points, but you're only sketching. So basically, if I asked you to do this question right here, you would get 1 mark for showing this right here, that little bit. You'd get 1 mark for cutting it off at 0 and 0. All right? And then you get 1 mark for the shape of the graph, is how it would work. So the shape of it is a mark in itself. So if that's it, that's your sketch. You're not getting a mark for exact, precise coordinates. But you do wanna have the ones that are key are like 0, 0, right? And then, or,
Are we gonna need to
And
have
1, 1.
exact coordinates at some point?
For certain graphs.
No? Really?
you just need
Oh,
3,
okay.
like you don't have to be, you just need 3 to kind of show the shape of it. Okay? Alright, so now here's the next one, and the next one is just using, okay, so the next one here, alright, so it's easy enough for a line, okay? It's simple for a line, alright? So now let's look at a parabola, and again, this one is very specific as to you need to use your calculator for it. Okay? Now, I could tell you, well, you know, you probably can complete the square and then draw out your vertex and do all that, but that's gonna be time. That's not what you're being tested on. That's what you get tested on in grade 11. So what do you need to do? Be able to punch this into your calculator, sketch the original, and then draw the new square root graph. Okay, so the original is y equals x squared plus x subtract 5. So it looks like this. Alright? So that's what I have right there, right? So now, I want to mark off where my square, like, I'm going to mark off because I'm going to take the square roots now, right? And again, I'm taking the square root of the entire graph, which means I'm taking the square roots of the y's. Right? So, focus on your key coordinates. Where does y equal 0? So that's the first one because the square root of 0 is 0, right? So I'm going to mark off that guy right there and that guy right here, right? Okay? Then I'm going to mark off where y is equal to 1 because what is the square root of 1?
1.
It's still 1, right? So I'm going to mark that off right here and mark that off right there. Right? So what was the thing that I had to make sure I do? Draw the little curve above the original because all my square roots, so
Oh, this is funky. Yeah,
That makes sense.
now you're done.
makes sense.
Now you're done. Okay, now, because your calculators, usually your grids, you've got like a window of minus 10, 10, minus 10, 10, right? Okay, so you do not get to see this as well, right? Unless you zoom in on it and make your grid small enough, you're probably not going to see that little curve part, but you have to know that it's there.
So it's pretty much memorizing the coordinates between 0 and 1 is correct,
Yeah,
if it's correct.
but it's not even memorizing, you just need to know. Just know that that's what it is,
But you have to do that.
okay? And there's nothing below the line that you have to worry about because you're taking the square root of negative numbers and they don't exist, right? So everybody kind of follows along with that?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay, so that's all I've got.
I actually did